The session is underway and we are all go for MotoGP, and the first practice session is underway here at the Chang International Circuit. Good morning everybody, welcome to the first free practice session for the weekend. After the misery of the cancellation of the Tissot Sprint in Australia, MotoGP kicks back into gear here at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand for the first practice of the 2023 race. So, the championship well and truly alive. It's under attack though. Jorge Martin continuing to lose out. Zarco winning last time out. Only the second time in history going for the first two outside the podium, and that has happened as well on the last lap of a race. So, this is it. We've got a championship battle between Bagnaia, now in the lead of it, and Jorge Martin in second place. So this is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of interest as well coming in as to what we're going to be expecting this to be. Certainly going to be about, but they're all out there on the circuit. Soft front, hard rear tyre, bar Binder has gone out there, hard front and rear tyre as well. And the riders heading out there. It's a small circuit, just 2.83 miles as well. The first two sectors, sort of, as you can see on the track map below me, very much a diagonal run. It's just a 90-degree right, then down to a long hairpin. First sector should favour the Ducatis, but the second and third, well, sectors 3 and 4 should favour that of the Aprilia, that of the Honda, that of the KTM as well. So it's a real money-bag circuit. There's so much to look forward to, so much going on here. As well. But let's say good morning to our commentators at TNT Sports.
Going for the full set. I like it.
Always does it properly. Actually looks a bit like his brothers with the blue on top, doesn't he? Like his brother's taken over. I heard a rumour, last week that there was a rumour. There's all sorts of rumours about who's going to take Mark's ride for next year. And Alex Marquez's name would come up about a real shock switch back to Repsol Honda. It's not going to happen. But, Miguel Oliveira's name in the mix. Iker Lecuona's been counted out. Spoke to Johan Zarco. It's not going to be him. So it feels like between Gian Antonio and Oliveira.
Yeah, and the more I'm hearing, it's more Fabio Di Gianantonio. That's gathered a lot of momentum. And obviously rightly so, because all of a sudden Fabio Di Gianantonio's discovered how to ride that Ducati. He's got completely different, let's say, setup to the other Ducati riders, but it's working for him and he looks brilliant.
Imagine though, right place, right time, thinking that your career is an absolute tatters, you're going back to Moto2 or maybe a completely different career path to World Superbike, and all of a sudden Repsol Honda come knocking. Well, that's fairy tale stuff just 5 years ago.
You could not make it up,
the land of Mick Doohan and Valentino Rossi and Nicky Hayden and Casey Stoner and Danny Pedrosa and Marc Marquez, and just knocking on your door. How many championships and races have you won in your career?
Yeah, you could not make it up. But they need somebody on that motorcycle next year, and 99% of the top riders are all under contract. There's not that many riders who could ride there. Well, because the reality is it's only for 1 year.
Yes, so that's what's coming through. You spoke with Miguel. Did he mention it at all yesterday?
No. Do you know what I thought? Because I spent the time with him. Weirdly, I thought I'm not going to ask him the question that'll annoy him. And
at the start, yeah.
And I also thought he'll only tell me what he wants to tell me. So I'm not going to get a scoop off him, am I?
Well, it's just because Johan Zarco said yesterday, I was only offered 1 year. It is a 1 year project because they want the pick of everyone at the end of next year. But that's not saying come and get me to someone, is it? Like Miguel Oliveira, or Johan Zarco.
It's not going to entice you to disrupt. For Miguel Oliveira, he may be in line if the rumours that Aleix Espargaro may hang up his boots at the end of his next contract and Oliveira's well positioned at RNF, then there could be a factory Aprilia right on the horizon in 2025. So, yeah, it needs to be enticing. If he's going to walk away from RNF to drop Aprilia, it needs to be a minimum 2 year contract, you would have said, maybe even with a 3rd year guarantee of some kind. So, yeah, I think he'll be pushing hard right now because it is slim pickings. There's not many to choose from who can ride Michelin tires, who understand these electronics and lowering devices in aero.
So go on, you two experts. You've done all your contracts in the past. If you are not necessarily Alberto Puig, but the bosses at HRC, which way would you go?
It's an absolute no-brainer that you try and do everything you can to get Miguel Oliveira. Yeah, and even if that means having a longer-term contract, you're going to have to do that. That's what I'd be doing, because Miguel's super bright. He's got the experience on the KTM and Aprilia now. He'll be a good development rider as well as a good racer. He can ride in all conditions. He's good at PR. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, 100% agree. I like the Digi story to rescue someone who's now found form in MotoGP, but your heart says Digi, your head says Oliveira. He's got to be the pick for Honda, for HRC, for the test team, for everything that they need to do now to get on a level pegging with Ducati, Aprilia and KTM. Oliveira's your man.
120th MotoGP winner in history, Johann Zarco, in his 120th MotoGP race.
There we go. There's a stat. Someone's been doing the homework. Here he is.
I've been holed up in a hotel room ill for the last 3 days, so
Yeah.
had time to read a few bits and pieces here and there.
Serious man flu you've had. It's funny, right? So the whole team's been ill, and we all just cracked on and got on with it. No one complained.
No one complained.
And then-
I mean,
And then
which angle are you looking at this?
And then Gav got this slight cold, and you would think he's been almost in intensive care a few times. I mean, I've never seen anyone milk it so much.
Michael's still going actually with his cough that he had.
That was a pathetic sympathy cough he
It
just
was,
did
wasn't
there.
it? Mine now is a tickle cough, but I can't warrant any sympathy whatsoever. I did go through the ringer, Gav. It was almost man flu last weekend in Australia, I would have said. Not quite as bad as you're about right now, though.
I'm absolutely fine. Honestly, absolutely fine. Just sound a mess. But I'm not the only person in the paddock. I've been up and down, talking to a lot of people here and there, keeping my distance, obviously. And there are a lot of people, because we're in a run of, we're in our 5th country in 6 weeks, and it's, the cold of Australia last week. It was nice on the first day, but. And then you come here and it's heat and air conditioning and aeroplanes and airports, and it lends itself to it.
You're so right. It was funny you say that, 'cause walking to the hire car yesterday, I was passing a load of
I'm going to interrupt because Martin has got held up by Marc Marquez there coming to the last sector. It's Quartararo on top there by 5 thousandths to Morbidelli, so it's a Yamaha 1-2. Alex Marquez third. Top 3 separated by 15 thousandths.
Takeover had happened. I mean, they looked exhausted, and I thought, yeah, no wonder. It's grueling for the mechanics. Long days.
Quick word on what we might see here this weekend then. I know we've spent all our time just talking about the start, but what do you reckon we're going to see at this racetrack? We always get a special tyre here, so we've got that special casing that they bring here for the weekend. It's a quirky track where it can rain any moment, so you expect. I expect the Yamahas to be up there, and as I say, it's 1 and 2 at the top of the timesheets. I really do expect them to have a podium shot here this weekend. And look, Fabio Quartararo had it in Indonesia, had it in India. And what about the Hondas or something a bit strange, the Aprilias, which we've seen?
It's a difficult one to, especially coming off a track like Australia, but I do think that Yamaha are going to be strong here. On paper, you look the run from turn 1 all the way down to turn 2 and 3 back uphill to 4, you would say, oh, Yamaha's got no chance, but they've always gone well here. Historically, it's been a strong track for Fabio, for the machine. Was it the hard casing in both India and Lombok when Fabio got the podium? I think it was definitely in India.
I'm not sure it necessarily was in Indonesia, but I'll have to check on
Yeah, but obviously it works. It does seem to provide a little bit different feeling, gives them the traction. They don't worry so much about matching the Ducati. It seems to, when you listen to Fabio talk, it's like it takes a bit of Ducati's advantage away. It doesn't change their bike that much. It just levels the playing field, and it gives them an opportunity. So yeah, I think weather could play a part, and it's nice. I like it when it's a bit of a shake-up, so good to see Aprilia's looking strong out of the blocks here with Maverick. Well, he was momentarily top of the timesheets there, being replaced by Alex Marquez at the top right now.
Here is Pecco Bagnaia. Rode a almost perfect race. In fact, there's a few riders rode superbly well at the front in MotoGP. He obviously had a championship in mind, but so patient in the early laps. As the same you could say about Johann Zarco, of course.
Yeah.
But how hard is that when you're in a race and to see your rival pull away?
Yeah, not only pull away, just absolutely destroy the field. And it was so interesting, those opening laps, those, let's say, the first 10 laps, every time it showed Pecco, he looked pretty steady. He looked like he was struggling at that point early on, but he wasn't at all. He was sticking to the plan. You can imagine the conversations they'll have had with Gigi and what lap times they thought they could achieve, and he just stuck to it. They let riders come past, he passed riders, but then the race came to him. But it was late on, obviously, it was really late on. It was with 5 laps to go, you just saw the Jorge Martin had dropped anchor at that point. The tyre had screamed no more, and the lap times started to drop by over half a second a lap, and that gap came tumbling down. It was the tortoise and the hare. It was a superb race.
Classic tale, wasn't it? I wonder how much will sticking to the plan then stand him instead, do you think, in these 4 races with 27 points the advantage?
Yeah, but it's going to be key, isn't it, really? I think the beauty of what we've got 27 points sounds like quite a big lead, but there's still lots of points up for grabs. What is it? Is it 100? Oh, it's 148 points up for grabs, so there's still a chunk of points out there. I think the beauty of what we've got is, and Michael's just said it then, when, you know, who's going to be good this weekend? There's an argument for every manufacturer except Honda, but then at this track Mark always has gone incredibly well in the past, so Mark might be able to make the difference.
And you don't know, do you, in terms of, although you'd expect the grip to be down just because of the tyre and the way things are. And what we've seen with Marc Marquez is that's when actually he can come to the fore, when perhaps it's not necessarily the bike's any better, it's just it doesn't, it's, you know, the gap between the others isn't as big as at other places.
Yeah. Was it 2019 he had the massive high side here in practice?
Yeah,
huge
that was
one
horrible.
around the left-hander, the bike landed right in its nose, but then bounced back on the race day. What a battle it was with Fabio Quartararo. And yeah, I think he makes the difference. Around those long hanging corners, he used to be able to make the Honda to hook a little better, whether it was his body position, his use of the rear brake. Right now the Honda can't achieve what the others can with their aero package to make it turn a little bit in the middle of the corner. Honda doesn't seem to be able to utilise the ground effect, so it somewhat stymies Mark's ability, his way of these are the corners we're talking about, when you're pulling back on itself and you're picking up the throttle and you're keeping turning left here. This is where Mark could really execute with his natural riding style, but right now his advantage of being able to do that is nullified. So yeah, he could still pull something out of the woodwork. I hope he does.
One thing I will say, just to back up as well, everything we have been saying, we're not sat here trying to big it up to say it's going to be close this weekend. It's a very basic track, so there's only certain areas the rider can make the difference, and you're not going to get a better example than we've got 21 riders riding around this track right now, and they're covered by 0.7 of a second.
Ridiculous.
I mean, ridiculous.
0.7 covers the whole field. 21 riders. No Alex Rins this weekend. He's had another operation. He was suffering some pain after coming back from injury, which is a slight worry. So Brad Binder there was on a good lap all the way round, and 16th at the end of it.
0.6 off. It's crazy.
What I am seeing here, we haven't got the tyre. For some reason, the tyres aren't coming through to us, so maybe a problem with the...
Well, we've got the timing screen, thankfully. So it's Vinales on a 1:31.484, then a 1:31.486 from Alex Marquez. 2,000s between them. The top three separated by 11 thousandths of a second. That is mega insane. In fact, looking down, we've got the entire top six separated by 0.094 of a second. That never happens at this track, honestly, ever. It is absolutely amazing. As I just put my headset back on from using the handheld mic, honestly, it is astounding to see that is as close as anything. A super duper time. We never seen them this close. The entire field separated by 0.710. 7/10 of a second separating the entire field at this track. It's a bit like Austria, this place. It's a short track race, and that's what we're getting. Short track racing, short track delivering. Don't forget, it's the next session that determines the running order for Q1 and Q2. This is a free practice session. What's happened then? Down at the last corner at turn 12. And this is Jorge Martin. A couple of laps to go. Is it going to get blocked by Marc Marquez? No. Dr. Dangle, front going up. Rear just about coming down and stepping in on the atmosphere. Very good indeed. It is Maverick Vinales, Alex Marquez, Jorge Martin, Fabio Di Gianantonio, Aleix Espargaro top 5, Ralph Fernandez 6th, Franco Morbidelli 7th, Takiki Nakagami going in 8th, Fabio Quartararo 9th, and Pecco Bagnaia in 10th place, 3/10 off the pace at the moment. Not good from him, our champ leader. Marco Bezzecchi 11th and Marc Marquez 12th. Luca Marini 13th, Johan Zarco's 14th, Jack Miller 15th, Paul Espargaro 16th, Brad Binder 17th, Miguel Oliveira 18th, and Aya Bashini 19th, Augusto Fernandez 20th, and Johan Mir 21st. As we said, no Alex Rins this weekend after having yet another operation as well. Back to TNT.
Follow suit. You got to choose the same tyre as Pecco and then hope that you as the rider can make the difference.
He sounded so brushed it off almost when we spoke to him yesterday. Phlegmatic about it. Oh, it is what it is. Just carry on now and make sure we don't make it again. And almost, saying, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. That's all we can do. And if we don't win doing that, then so be it. It's quite an interesting way of approaching things. One of my questions for the weekend is tyre pressures, front tyre pressures, hot conditions, really hard on tyres, really heavy braking as well. Around here, particularly into the likes of turn 1, turn 3 and turn down towards turn 4. That's going to play a part, isn't it, in the racing that we get?
Yeah, absolutely, it's going to play a part. The good news is there are plenty of overtaking opportunities at this track. The reality is everyone's going to be trying to get said overtaking opportunities done really early on, because there is the potential for front tyre pressures to certainly go through the roof and then make it very difficult.
I don't think I've ever seen the field covered by 0.7 of a second like this.
No, I can't remember.
At this stage into a session.
No. Unreal, isn't it, really?
It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And it's not a short track at all. It's 2.8 miles, 4.5 kilometres around the racetrack. So, pretty remarkable.
What also is surprising, when you look at the top speeds and you go Ducati 334, but then there's Yamaha 332, but that Yamaha's slow. It doesn't actually make sense. It is only 2 kilometres top end, but it's how it gets there, obviously, that makes the difference in race trim.
It's not the slowest, is it, turn 1? It's slightly more open than 90 degrees.
True, yeah.
And I've always felt like you could just roll that little bit onto it. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those corners, it can catch you out by attacking it too hard. And rushing into the corner and then affecting your run down that long straight. It's about 1 kilometre from turn 1 to they call it turn 3. Bizarrely, they've called turn 2 a slight kink on the straight. So, but essentially, you go around turn 1 and all the way down to turn 3 is 1 kilometre. So you've got to be patient.
Exactly 1 kilometre.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
Just about it, exactly. 0.621 of a mile from start to finish. And almost the same coming back the other way, probably about 900 metres back down from 3 to 4. Yeah, I just wonder in terms of the tyre pressure, because, there are a few people on warnings already who've had their tyre pressure checked. We found after Indonesia, we had it with Maverick Vinales, didn't we, earlier in Barcelona. So it's something that they're just going to have to be a little bit wary of, because it is a factor in the outcome of the races.
Obviously, when you still had the one indiscretion in your pocket when you're on the grid, you might gamble a little bit, drop it 0.1 of a bar lower than what is safe to do. So because you're always trying to calculate from your start position on the grid, is it likely where I'm going to be stuck behind 5 or 6 bikes? Is the temperature going to grow? So yeah, you're planning over race distance, over the plan that the rider has. Are they planning to get to the front? Are they planning to make overtakes? It's not an easy one to calculate, but now someone's going to get the first penalty, so obviously a lot on their first warning. And the grid penalties will be handed out before the end of the season. I've no doubt about that. This is one of those tracks, because of the hard braking, running the big discs around here, the high temperatures. So yeah, you're going to see some front tyre pressure playing going on. Yeah,
so the ones with it hanging over their head at the moment are Vinales, Morbidelli, Fernandez, Espargaro and Bezzecchi.
I guess it's harder if you've qualified on the first 2 rows, because you're going to gamble as in start with a low tyre pressure, because you can't risk not doing that. But then if you're on the second row and you get a great start, you end up getting the whole shot, and you don't then get the extra heat off following a motorcycle, your front tyre pressure might not get up to the minimum pressure, and you cop a penalty. So why I'm saying that is, if you qualify on the 5th row of the grid, there's going to be bikes in front, so you can risk going even lower. But yeah, it's a gamble when we're in this period. it's quite boring, I find, talking about it.
Me
but,
too.
but it is a fact of modern MotoGP.
Started well again, Fabio Di Giannantonio, 4th quickest after the first runs out on the racetrack here.
It's been a complete turnaround. The last 3, maybe 4 rounds, he's always competitive, so it's not a flash in the pan. The podium in Australia, he was building towards it. He was coming in terms of his one-lap pace, his race rhythm, his confidence on the machine, I think his relationship with his crew chief and Frankie sounds like he really gets on with Frankie. They're really finding some answers for both the bike and his riding style, and it's a shame it's a little bit late in their partnership, but nice to see them reaping the rewards right now, and Fabio on the pace again this weekend, whilst his name's been touted around with a factory Honda contract. So yeah, good things come to those who wait. And Fabio's one of the nice guys in the paddock, so it would be well deserved if it does go his way.
It's a funny one because it's shades of for Lorenzo when he was with Ducati. Literally at the point where it was announced that, right, well, it's our marriage is over, we'll go our separate ways next year, Lorenzo goes out and wins the race in Mugello, if you remember, and then obviously from that point on looked invincible on the Ducati. Oh, what was that?
Not quite sure. So it just popped off the side there. It's like it's the...
it's the under chin mount of his helmet, so obviously wanting to get a bit more airflow in around his mouth, but forgot about it in the pit box, put his helmet on, and then decided to pull it out on the way out onto the track. So the Alpine Stars boys will have to replace that later.
There's his dad, Angel, watching on. 27 points, more than capable of clawing back, as we have seen in that middle part of the season. Remember, between Misano and Japan, 3 sprint wins, 2 race wins, and a 2nd place in Indonesia, in India, my apologies, and that form would take him to the title. He can rekindle that, as he's shown recently he's capable of doing. There's every chance that Jorge Martin will challenge this man.
But did you watch Pecco into turn 1 there, riding the front wheel all the way in, perfectly sideways? That's Pecco on form. So you haven't seen that really as consistently lately in the last few rounds. It's always been, since India really, it's been a bit of a struggle to stop the bike exactly where he wants to, but these early signs are quite promising for Pecco.
Yeah, the shapes that motorcycle was pulling then, I thought I was thinking exactly the same, Michael. I thought, yeah, that looks familiar. That's the when it looks like that, that's when Pecco's at his best.
What Martin has also done is improve his qualifying, and that sounds ridiculous for someone we knew in the past as a bit of a pole hound, but it has been, first or second in 4 of the last 5 races, been put himself right in the mix, and before that only had 2 front rows in the first 10 races of the season. That suddenly changed the picture, that he's able to pull out that 1 lap. It's really intriguing to know what has changed in the middle part of the year, but I wonder if tyre pressures is where part of it is at. It surely wouldn't be the case in qualifying.
No, you wouldn't have thought so. And obviously, a lot of the talk was that the Japanese manufacturers weren't as prepared as most of the Ducati teams to go below the minimum threshold on the pressure. So the thinking was that it was going to take a slight race advantage away from Ducati. But yeah, with Jorge understanding what's been the breakthrough, sometimes you just find the sweet spot with the base setting. He's talked a lot recently that he hasn't had to change his bike, he hasn't been searching for something, he just gets out there, rides the bike. He's confident that he's in front of the bike, he can almost predict what it's going to do, and that does give you such a nice feeling. You just that's the flow state, that's what you're always after, and it seems like he just found it, and he's kept running with it ever since.
There's a bit of a funny chat in the week between himself and Miguel Oliveira. Of course, they're both wanting to run 88. In fact, Miguel Oliveira actually wants to run 44, but if Pol Espargaro's not around next year, then Miguel Oliveira hoping to switch back to that, and then that Martin, would he switch back to 88? And he said, if it's not an option, obviously number 1 could always be an option.
I love that.
There's no doubting Jorge Martin is not shy when it comes to self-belief.
No, it was that self-belief that was his undoing last weekend, really, because he sat there and he's like, no, throw the soft in, I'm fast on that, I'll make it work. That is that's, I guess, what we heard yesterday with him talking about, look, moving forward, I'm not going to stray from what my rivals are running, because you're always pretty aware of what someone's... Normally at a racetrack, you've got a rough idea what your rival's going to do.
Luca Marini, wasn't it, who said last week, Michael, about when he saw that Jorge Martin had a soft put in the back?
I thought that was quite pointed from Marini. So most of the others liked the fact that he was prepared to take a gamble, but Marini more or less called him stupid. Was like, why would you do this? Because with the medium tyre, he had the pace to beat Pecco anyway. He had no need to take the gamble. It was almost like he was trying to defeat him mentally. He was trying to show he could win on either tyre. So yeah, he was probably the one with the toughest stance on it.
I love that, don't you, though? I also love it from Jorge Martin's side of things. That he does think, do you know what? Yeah, I will score a big psychological goal with this. Got so many levels to it.
One thing we are going to see this weekend is lots of people running off the track. As you can see, there's tarmac at the edges of all the track. So, and track limits. I know that's another subject people don't want to hear about, but it's true. Track limits, warnings will play a part because it's a relatively narrow track. Like I said, it's a simple track. There's only so many corners that you can really make a difference on. So people really push the limits on those corners to try and gain an advantage.
Yeah, turn 1 is one. Coming out of 4 at the end of the second straight. And then you'll see it there between 8 and 9 is another one. This is the entrance to pit lane. It's really strange, really long entrance to pit lane, quite confusing. Big sign up there, it says long live the king. Massive, absolutely massive, that billboard. And then the entrance into pit lane that way. Do you have to come that way, Michael? I wonder if you had any update on because there is another entrance, isn't there, where you actually through the middle of the corner, where if you run on, you can come into pit lane.
Yeah, I've seen riders already take the late entry, so I think it should be fine. But I haven't actually. Normally, you get a notification to say whether it's okay or not via email, but I haven't seen one. I will ask that question, Gav. But you would imagine if you've safely run wide and you've ended up on that late, or the entry to pit lane quite late on, the allowance would be there to go straight on down pit lane.
Bagnaia back in after his second run. That was a shorter second run, so perhaps whatever they tried there didn't work. Haven't been any improvements. I think it's been a case of whatever you run on your first set of laps, you go with again, try and get some laps on it.
Surprising to see so many sticking it out with the soft front tyre option.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same. You'd be thinking, surely that's never going to be an option for the race because braking stability is so important around here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have all the graphic information for the entire field, but everyone we see that pops up with their times in the bottom are all soft front, hard rear, as you see the bottom of your screen there. Vinales, Martin and Alex Marquez all out there, soft front, hard rear.
The only one I saw that was different was Brad Binder, who had the hard front in his KTM, and we have seen that in the past. But they have tended to move away from it a little bit more this year. Again, it may say soft on the wrapper, but the tyre itself could well be on the harder end of the scale. We've seen that, haven't we, so many places where the medium and hard actually could be pretty similar compounds, and it might be just the left-hand side of the compound is, slightly different in these tyres.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes there is a code and riders know that tyre from a previous racetrack and they like it, they like the feedback and feeling it gives you, so it may be soft as its nomination towards us, but to the riders they'll have a P, a Q, and S. Sylvain always knows what they are because he's obviously worked through them all with the test team, and when you know that actual tyre, you've had previous experience, so it sometimes just becomes the one that it's your go-to, it's the one you like the feedback and feeling from.
And often it might be a slight profile, slightly different, or something in terms of the construction that just gives you the feedback you need. There's Raul Fernandez, good start to his racing weekend in 6th place. Had that purple patch, didn't he, over recent races. Just going to wait slightly, but 8th, 10th and 9th in San Marino, India and Japan.
Definitely found some form, hasn't he? Found his way. It's the best we've seen him on a MotoGP bike. I mean, really impressed everyone a couple of years ago in that season he had in Moto2, winning quite a few races that year. He didn't win the championship, he was second in the championship, but he was mightily impressive.
Aleix Espargaro had a tough run of flyaway races. If you look at his results, no scores in any sprint. Obviously, there wasn't one in Australia. And in India, nothing in the race there. And then 5th in Japan in the wet conditions. 10th in Indonesia as he slipped back with the wrong tyre choice. And in Australia, an 8th place. So it's been a tough run on the flyaways for Aleix. And even before that, San Marino, an 8th and a 12th in the sprint and the races there.
These early signs are good for Aprilia, though. Aleix, it did go away from him a little bit there in sectors 2 and 3, but seems confident with the bike. And obviously, looking at the time set by Maverick already, will give the Aprilia team a bit of a renewed and buoyed confidence heading into the weekend. Although Maverick's been looking good during these flyways, maybe the momentum has shifted to his side of the Aprilia box. It does go that way sometimes.
Still got 0.7 of a second covering the whole field, which is quite remarkable. I'm keeping my eye on that. I want Joan Mir to put a lap together, because then if he improves his time, he's the only one in the 0.7. From then after that, we'll all be covered by 0.6. It's just getting silly now, this.
Taka Nakagami and Luca Marini have both just improved on that previous lap. But Luca Marini, having improved, 0.3 off, and he's 13th.
The Yamaha double exhausts are back in action this weekend.
Oh, look at them. They look
ugly.
Big.
Yeah.
They look huge, don't they?
They don't look like for that bike, do they?
No, they look like they borrowed them off someone else. Yeah, like them. As in, it's good to see something different. I like it when I can spot something. That's how I'm like, well,
you can't.
Just call me Mr. Technical.
Still have to wait for Michael to say it, just to check.
Just confirm it. Yeah.
Yeah, good lap from Fabio halfway around.
Frankie in his mini debrief yesterday saying how he's excited about the Ducati, but he has to try and keep that excitement under wraps, of course, because he knows he's still got the remainder of the season to go. But he's really expecting them to go well here this weekend. Very positive.
Aleix putting it together there, second time around on that tyre, got it right. Looks really strong in sector 4 with the Aprilia, stopping it up into the last corner. Such a tough one to be precise with, but he's got it dialed right now.
Yeah, so came through 400s out and only good enough for 4th. Top 6 covered by less than a 10th of a second. Little foot off the foot take for Fabio Quartararo. We all remember the epic race here, 2019, himself and Marc Marquez.
That was such an impressive race for the young rookie.
Satellite bike.
Yeah. He dived up the inside of Marquez on the last lap in the last corner. The move wasn't quite on, but he went for it, which was fantastic. It just showed his confidence at the time. He ran a fraction wide, and Mark was able to square him off and win the world title. But that was an impressive race. Well, Aleix Espargaro's on a cracking lap. He's definitely got the hard front in. And yeah, this is going to spoil the timings for everyone.
Here he is, up to the last corner now.
That looked good as well.
Yeah, lovely drive out that final corner for Aleix Espargaro, nails it. And so a 131.171 for the Catalan. And he's top of the timesheets, now a second, covering all the riders down to Joan Mir in 21st.
He built up to it there. Every lap improved. Obviously, the hard front will take a bit of getting his head around, so he's been out there with the soft front, stick in the tyre with a little bit more stability. You have to change your approach into the corners, use the stability and performance on the hard braking, and then you don't get as much turning from the harder option, but obviously utilise those strengths, and it definitely worked in the end of the lap there for Aleix.
Maverick feeling the heat out there. It is steamy and very humid. Hard to catch your breath in these. Obviously, the heat then. Raise your heart rate. That was front and rear slide for Pecco Bagnaia.
One of those tracks, though, this first section, over the first pretty much 1.4 miles of it, it's 2.8 miles the track, so the first 1.4 miles is all about 2 corners. And it's really hard because as you're trying to push, and certainly when it comes to qualifying, to achieve a good lap time, turn 1 is such a critical corner because it leads onto that kilometre-long straight. It's a heavy braking corner, but it's also got a fast exit to it as well, so it's understanding of how hard to attack the corner. And when I did my track guide yesterday with Miguel Oliveira, he said it's really difficult to find that balance. She said if you don't attack it under brakes, you get your exit and you think, I've definitely given up a little bit of time there. And we've been talking about how close the times are, so that snapped back quite quickly. He got the first sector good, and then this lap's gone away from him.
They were some of the hallmarks, weren't they, that we were seeing when we were having those problems. Misano, India, we saw him, just didn't look quite right. Just a bit snappy.
Yeah, not an easy one to consistently dial in when grip changes, obviously, and when tyre construction and cases change. Your actual feeling with the ground can, and this is a perfect visual example of it. So you know that Pecco likes to stop the bike with the rear of the machine as much as possible to get the grip from the tyre to help them decelerate. So if the electronics are dialed in perfectly, they control the idle, open the butterflies a little bit, try not to use fuel when doing so. So they're trying to not blip the throttle, so not use fuel to disengage the gear. They use the seamless gearbox can execute that now, but it's that was a little bit weird there, the way it kicked through the machine, but yeah, to try and stop the bike, but use enough that you've got contact with the rear, you can press the rear brake, you've got engine braking, you're closing the exhaust valve, you're opening the butterflies to counteract, and you're doing it all in unison. It's a lot of work for the electronics engineers to dial it in, to give the rider the exact feeling he needs, and then the chassis engineer to balance the bike to suit that, and maybe the suspension engineer to try and just adjust a few clickers. So there's a lot at play to give the rider the feeling that they need at every single racetrack when grip changes and tyres change.
It was almost though as he clipped a little bit of white line. Almost.
Yeah, it got in a little bit hot actually, so it was slightly wide then on exit, so a bit too much lean angle whilst trying to apply the throttle, and the computer said no, didn't it?
There's a long run out to turn 3 for Bagnaia as we switch back to Jorge Martin. A great stat that at Swinksy, Nacho works for Motociclismo magazine in Spain. There have been 383 MotoGP races, okay? Only twice out of 381.
This is sounding familiar.
Who led going on to the last lap.
Same stat I got, yeah.
Led across the line. Only twice in all those races has the rider not finished on the podium. Which two?
Obviously, last weekend.
When was the other one?
Oh, wow.
It's a cracking quiz. At Swinksy is the man to follow on.
I've got to say it's another Phillip
Twitter.
Island race because they're typically the closest top 10s.
I know.
I don't know.
I'm not saying.
I'll leave it with you. We've got 6 minutes left. For you to
It was
stew.
Valentino Rossi.
I'm now
It was Valentino Rossi, and it was Le Mans 2017 something like that. Or Assen. Somewhere on there.
So yeah, the rider who was leading across the
just
line
for a little bit of help.
on the last lap,
Just for a
onto
little-
the last lap, didn't finish on the podium.
Just for a little bit of help.
Go on,
Is it? Oh, we're talking MotoGP.
MotoGP only.
Yeah.
You knew that as well. I think I was including BSB in there or something.
No. What I was thinking was 500 Grand Prix.
No, only in MotoGP era. Yeah. It's quite a good stat, actually. If you think about it, that basically means that if you've been leading onto the last lap,
Is this? Can you give us a clue? I'll give you one for you. This was funny, right? So I stayed in a hotel room for my It's this 5 minutes ago. I can tell this story. I stayed in a hotel room for my wedding, of course, on the wedding night. When we were checking out this hotel, they said, I said, can we check that room out? And they went, there's been a special guest in it, but we can't tell you who it is. And I went, come on, tell us who it is. I'm not going to say anything. And they went, no, we can't tell you. So anyway, we go to the room.
Just Jorge Martin just gone half a second faster.
Did you notice he's gone out with a new medium front and a new medium rear?
1:35.20. Great time.
Anyway, it went full circle. We got to this room eventually to go in and look, and the cleaner was there. And I said to the cleaner, who's been in this room? And she went, I can't tell you, but all I can say is his name rhymes with Mozzie Mosborn. It was just one of those moments in life where it was like the least subtle hint. So yeah. So can you give us a clue, like that sort of clue?
You want me to say it was Bark Barquez? if it was a dog race, it was Bark Barquez.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't.
No. Go on then, tell us who. I can't.
We've still got 4 minutes to go. I'll let you steal them with people at home.
Okay.
In the middle of the night. This
Valet. But I can't remember what year, and I can't remember what track, and I read that stat earlier.
Yeah, they'll be kept awake now, thinking of who it might be who didn't finish on the podium leading on to the last lap, apart from Jorge Martin last week. And I'll say to you, Michael, I thought Phillip Island, I thought it might be in the 2015 race with, Iannone in there with Lorenzo. It wasn't Australia. No. It wasn't any of Australia. Because I look back to 2001, there was a cracking battle back there, and it wasn't there either. There's some races that I was thinking of throughout, and then it's clicked into place.
It wasn't in Malaysia, was it?
You're just going to go through 20 rounds now, aren't you? It wasn't in Austria, was it?
Just trying to eliminate for you.
Assen.
Pecco Bagnaia currently down in 12th place as these two stew alongside me. I do like that little section of racetrack.
Just tell us I'm getting stressed.
Bring him to the final corner.
I'll tell you what, that looks good, doesn't it?
Oh, that looked great into there. Now that's the shape we expect to see from Pecco, isn't it? That snappiness is something that it never seemed to be there before.
And when he's doing it with a hard rear, so obviously he's looking at the lap time and seeing the advantage that Vinales and Martin have at the top of the timesheets, but they're out there with those medium fronts, medium rears, and Pecco, it is always difficult to get a gauge in practice one now, because obviously it is a proper free practice. No need for a time attack right at the end of the session.
What I'm finding interesting is that the riders who've gone out with the medium rear on, we've just got the tyres come in. Martin and Oliveira, they're the only ones using the medium front. So if you go with the hard option rear tyre, it's a direct choice, soft or hard. So I think you're right, Michael. I think that medium tyre in there is one of those that a lot of the riders perhaps have said, it's not one they've liked in the past or like the feeling it gives them. I think Jorge Martin, though, is already thinking, can I race this tyre? He goes out with the medium. Fabio Di Gianantonio up into 5th place. Jack Miller up into 12th.
Does it include crashing on the last lap?
Yeah.
I can't believe that's only been twice. So the rider leading the last lap of a MotoGP race only twice out of 300 and how many?
83.
As the rider not finished on the podium. So you're telling me in all those MotoGP races, no one's crashed on the last lap if they led it over the line, or have they? So it must be a crash. It's so difficult because
I will start to give you a couple of clues when we get to the end of this session to try and get you to the right place, because I think you'll know straight away. Because I went through the racetracks, and thinking about where. I'll give you a clue then. The rider who was leading, going on to the last lap, did crash on the last lap.
right.
Okay, that's the clue I'll give you for the last 40 seconds.
But it is amazing that that's only happened once.
That's what I was thinking.
Think of all the classic battles during the MotoGP era.
There's across the line 16th, Marc Marquez in 18th.
All the weather conditions.
Yeah.
Like all the wet races.
And if people have crashed out, it's been early. I think of Marc Marquez in USA, or Bagnaia, similar sort of thing. It's earlier on in the race, not on the last lap. So people have crashed out in Leeds, of course. But on the last lap, checker flag is out in this session. You were trying to get a pair of them in the airport, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, but you were encouraging me to get them, saying they look really good on you. And I'm going, did they all really, or do I look stupid? And then you definitely said that I look super cool
You should
in
get
them.
2 pairs of them.
Yeah, that was it.
Is that who you popped them off onto?
It was the fact that you then said, get them gold ones, that they look even better.
Reflective gold.
Then I knew you were winding
Van
me.
Espargaro up into third there. A new tyre at the end of the session, I will point out, whereas others appear to have just stayed on the same tyre throughout the session.
One thing I'm quite proud of is in last place is Miguel Oliveira. Clearly listened to my lines and advice on the track guide yesterday.
Quite clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
But he did set his best on lap 6 of 18, so...
I told him to, I said, work on your race pace, Miguel.
Work on the race pace.
Just,
People saying on Twitter, was it Colin Edwards? Assen.
Did he lead across the line?
He didn't lead across the line onto the last lap. He was passed on the penultimate lap by Nicky Hayden.
that was a good shout, though, people on Twitter.
That was Steve Dewitt was one to have mentioned that one. That was another one.
Are we going to kick
I was
ourselves
thinking,
when you tell
No,
us?
I don't think you'll kick yourself, but you go, oh, God, I remember it now so vividly. As Raul Fernandez goes into 8th. Johan Zarco down in 19th.
Good time.
What a difference a week makes.
Is it Jerez?
No.
Is it Le Mans?
Yes.
It was Le Mans. It's Farsi at Le Mans.
It's Le Mans.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
It's the
Maverick and Valentino.
Rossi.
Valentino Rossi and Maverick Vinales.
Wow.
2017 was that?
Wow.
Maverick's first year at Yamaha, wasn't it? That
Yeah.
was the beginning of the end, actually, because he'd won everything to that point, pretty much.
Yeah, Des Gray also said Texas Tornado at Assen. I'm afraid not. It was Valentino Rossi crashing out at Le Mans. It's a good one though, that isn't it? What a start in
That is
terms of
that's a
in
start.
all the time in MotoGP that hasn't happened more.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
So
What an end! What a session! And it is Martin, Vinales, Paul Espargaro, Aleix Espargaro, Morbidelli, the top 5. Augusto Fernandez, Di Antonio, Raul Fernandez, Alex Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia has the top 10. Well, thanks for your company. We'll be back later on for all the action from practice for the session. Bye for now.